But it looks like we have everybody here and we're ready to roll. So let's do some quick refresher because last week we were dealing with Purim and going over the Megillah the week before, and let's just take a moment and go over that. Okay. David HaMelech had married quite a few women, and one of them, Ma'acha, was an Yafat Toar, was a beautiful woman who was taken at wartime. And the Torah permits at wartime in Beit Hamikdash times, in those days, doesn't apply today. If a warrior would see a woman that really struck his fancy as an extraordinarily beautiful woman, the halacha was he was allowed to take her, but under certain circumstances, he was allowed to be physically intimate with her at battle one time, and then if he wanted more than that with that woman, he would bring her from the battlefield to his home. She would sit Shiva, so to speak, for 30 days for her parents, whom she's never going to see again. He would shave her hair and cut her fingernails so that they're not like the like the feminine long fingernails. And after 30 days, if he still wants this lady who's been crying for 30 days, has no hair, her fingernails are not feminine, then he can take her as his wife. And the idea of the Torah was to be a concession to certain needs that certain men have at wartime to prevent what would happen exactly in other nations where you have mass rape. And excuse me, I have a little cough here. So it was some kind of concession with an understanding that you could not just take her for yourself and have her unless you married her after the first time. The only image that comes to mind as an American is the different images of situations where American men went to war in Asian countries. And it's a literary device and story that shows up over and over again, from Madame Butterfly, the opera, to Miss Saigon, the Broadway musical, of an American soldier in an Asian country who takes up with an Asian woman that catches his fancy, and he's all alone. He's typically not married, but he might be married, and he doesn't know how long he's going to be in Japan, Vietnam, whatever. And then afterwards, after the war, he's been living with her for a year or 4 years, however long we're in Vietnam and he's there, or Japan or whatever. And then when it's over, he goes home. She didn't know he was married. Goes home to his wife. She thinks he's going back to get his stuff and he's going to come back to Japan or Vietnam. But he's not. And she's pregnant. And then she writes him and he says he's coming back. And she's all excited. And he's coming back to take the child back to America. Sayonara. And that's the classic Western story of the white man, the American who goes fighting in Asia, and these things unfold. Judaism, it works differently. In Judaism, at the time of the Beit HaMikdash, if you got involved with a woman one time at war, you couldn't, that was it, unless you're going to marry her. Now, you were allowed to marry more than one woman. In fact, technically, you were probably divorced from your wife at that moment, based on what we've learned earlier, how they all divorced their wives before they went to war, and then you remarried, but you were allowed polygamy. But that's how it differed. Anyway, Ma'acha was the Yafat Toar, as among all of David's wives, it was the one wife he took in battle. And she gave birth. When he was intimate with her, before deciding to go all the way and get married, he was allowed one time to be intimate with her at the battlefield. and she got pregnant and gave birth to a girl, Tamar. So Tamar, we learned, is the daughter of Ma'acha, but has no father. Because we also learned that when a Jewish man gets a non-Jewish woman pregnant, according to halacha, child is the child of the mother, but the child, halachically has no father. And we've talked about that at some length already. I'm just refreshing your memories. So David's many, many children, we learned, each had a different mother. He had many wives, many children, each a different mother. With the exception of the boy Avshalom, who was born to Ma'acha after David completed all that ritual with the 30 days of mourning and the shaved head and the fingernails, and then he married Ma'acha properly. And then he had a baby, and that baby was, I said Avshalom, I meant Amnon. No, I meant Avshalom. See, that's why I need the review also. Avshalom. Let's bring this person in. So everybody had a different mother, except Avshalom and Tamar both had the same mother, Ma'acha, but different fathers. Avshalom, his father was David, because the pregnancy had taken place after the Yafat Tawar could be married, and Tamar had no father, which means Tamar technically could have married any of the sons of David except for Absalom. Every son of David had a mother different from Tamar's mother, and David is a father, which is different from fatherless Tamar. Any son of David could have married her. Technically, it's really kind of not cool, but could have been done legally. And the only brother who could not have married her would have been Avshalom, because they shared the same mother, even though not the same father. So Avshalom is the only one who could not have married her. And Avshalom had a particularly emotionally intimate relationship with her, not physical. But this was his sister. No one else shared a common mother in that family of kids except Avshalom and Tamar. So he was her big brother. Different father, but not so legally different, but King David, and she's living in David's palace, and David's treating her in every other way like his daughter. And so they had a special emotional bond. Okay. And where we left off, two more things we learned. Number one, well, one more thing for our purposes right now. Where we left off is Amnon, the son of one of the other girls, ladies. Amnon has an obsession, a male-female love obsession for Tamar. He's obsessed, and he's got to have her no matter what. And Yonadav, David's, I think it was his brother, which makes him Amnon's uncle, has a talk with him and tells him you should feign to be very sick. It'll get your father's attention, and tell your father you want your sister Tamar, don't say the word sister necessarily, you want Tamar to come and feed you. And explicitly, you want her, no one else. You want her to make the food, no one else. And you want her to physically feed you because you're sick in bed and you need to be fed. And for some curiosity, you don't want any other woman to cook the meal or to feed you. Now, Yonadav, his plan, he felt that when you tell that to David, it's going to light a spark of recognition to David. I think my son Amnon is physically interested in Tamar. Does he want to marry her? Because they didn't have what they have nowadays, where you, where you have a non-married, out of wedlock relationship for 10 years, 20 years before someone proposes. In those days, you got married. You did not live with someone out of marriage. Even the Yafat Torah, you had to get the business right away. So if he's got an obsession for Tamar, if David feels, I think my son Amnon wants Tamar, that means marriage. Yonadav, his motivation is to help broach the subject, breach the silence, I don't know, and get David to ask Amnon, is there something I should know about your interest in Tamar? Are you like embarrassed to spell it out to me and let me know, and maybe it's something we can work out. I mean, it's kind of not something I would have expected in my life, but Amnon, meanwhile, thinks Yonadav is suggesting something else. Amnon thinks that by Yonadav saying, tell your father you want her to come in and cook for you and feed you, he thinks Amnon is suggesting that he rape her. Here, get her into your room, make believe you're sick, you're not sick. Close the door. You don't have to close the door. Close the door. She's your sister, right? And your father is going to tell her, do whatever he wants. He wants food, you give him food. He wants you to serve him, whatever he wants, because your father's not going to know how far that comment goes. And then go ahead and rape her. So Amnon thinks he's been suggested by his uncle, yeah, go ahead and rape her. Maybe with a common understanding that technically he is allowed to marry her because they have different mothers and he's got David as a father. Who knows? It's not spelled out. But the rabbis and commentators are quite sure that Yonadav's intention was proper, and it was simply like a shadchan. That he was trying to facilitate getting them married, since he's so obsessed with her, and he just needs David's okay. All right. So that's where we left off. Thank you for being here, and let's learn together again after a little bit of a hiatus. So first of all, real quickly, so this happened afterward. Avshalom, son of David, had a beautiful sister named Tamar, and Amnon, son of David, became infatuated with her. And the commentators pick up right away that they're both called son of David, distinguishing from Tamar, who is not the daughter of David. Amnon was so distraught because of his half-sister Tamar, who technically is not his sister because different mothers and not the same father. So she's not actually a half-sister. But the text does call her Achoto, his sister. The text is talking not in the legalistic sense, but in the just informally, casually, because she's kind of like a sister. He became sick. She was a virgin, and it seemed impossible to Amnon to do anything to her. Amnon had a friend named Yonadav, son of David's brother. All right, son of David's brother makes him David's nephew. I misspoke. That's why I'm reviewing with you. Son of David's brother, Shema. And we can skip Shema for now. So that makes him David's nephew. David's nephew makes him everybody's cousin. Yonadav was a very clever man. Ish Chacham, very smart man. He asked, why are you so dejected? Oh, prince. Everybody who's a son of David's a prince. Morning after morning. You see, so I'm in love with her. The sister of my brother Avshalom. Isn't she the sister of all his brothers? No. Only Avshalom and she shared the same mother. All right. So Yonadav said to him, that's his cousin, lie down in your bed, pretend you're sick. When your father comes to see you, say to him, let my sister Tamar come and give me something to eat. Let her prepare the food in front of me so I may look on, and let her serve it to me. Tavona Tamar achotiva tavreni lechem, to give me bread, food. V'ostole einai, einayim is eyes, einai, my eyes. And let her make the birya. Birya means the health-giving food. Tavreni, it's the same Hebrew shoresh or root, the bet resh. The restorative food, that would be the best way to say it. This food that'll restore my soul. So let her make it in front of my eyes. Laman asher erez, so I can see. V'chalti miyada, and I want to eat from her hand. So he's obviously got something going on here. Amnon lay down and pretended to be sick. King came to see him. Amnon said to the king, let my sister Tamar come, prepare a couple of cakes. See how the translation worked? Shnei levivot, pancakes. Like in Hanukkah time, we refer to levivot, the pancakes. Let her prepare pancakes or whatever in front of me, because ugot, cakes is ugot. Levivot would be like pancakes. And let her bring them to me, evremi yada, and may I have them from her hand. David sent a message to Tamar in the palace. Please go to the house of your brother Amnon and prepare some food for him. So now look, if you go into a room that your brother is in, there's like it's just, you can't do that. The brother and sister, you just can't be intimate. It doesn't even enter your mind. There's a lady named Elaine. She's got a PhD in religion. About 40 years or 30 years ago, she even she shared with me that she had read, from a non-religious Bible scholar. So she was studying Bible like for a PhD, be a professor of Bible, and not from a religious point of view, but from a secular point of view, this Bible scholar had written a scholarly paper about the Bible's forbidden sexual relationships. And his or her theory was, and by the way, it could be so, it could be that that's what God's purpose was. But his theory was that certain relationships were made forbidden so as to allow people male, female, who often come into contact, often even behind closed doors, to psychologically exist. In other words, like a son and his mother, or a daughter and her father. Other than really perverted people, we have so internalized that you would never think, like if a son is in the room with his mom, she's basically yelling at him for, when are you going to clean up your room? And he's yelling at her because that's his job, to yell at his mother. And no one's thinking about having intimate physical relations. But that's partly because of the way we've been socialized. We've been socialized not to think of that. And that allows boys with their mothers and girls with their fathers and brothers with their sisters. And was the idea that God made that forbidden from day one in the book of Leviticus, Vayikra, chapter 18, and I think chapter 21 also, so that people would be socialized. A taboo, that would be the word. A social taboo that is so ingrained that people can live together that way. And my sister calls me into the room to help her open the window or close the window, or so I go and help. That's your brother and a sister, end of story. And it's just the one in a gazillion who do the wrong thing with that. It gets in the newspapers and it becomes a national scandal. And even if they're not famous. So you have that phenomenon. And by the way, I don't want to get into the whole gay homosexual stuff, but that same theory is what was in play because guys are together. Guys are in contact with guys all the time. If they're on a baseball team and they're showering, or a football team and they're showering in the men's locker room, or or they're getting together to learn Gemara, or they're going to a baseball game or a hockey game or whatever they're doing. Guys get together with guys, women get together with women. And according to that same theory, the whole idea was if you socially acclimate people psychologically, that it becomes a taboo, like brother, sister, or like father, daughter, that not only that you won't even have a lot of homosexuality. You'll have a few, it's not a big thing, and it doesn't become a thing because it's internalized that if I'm in a room with a man, it's like I'm in a room with my mother or my sister. So it's internalized. And of course, what's happened in today's Western world is they've now reduced the taboo the other way around, that you have to support, and that's what gets everything meshuggah. So it no longer acts as a taboo that you wouldn't even think of it. Thus, once it's no longer taboo, if two guys are in a dorm together and they're raised to think who knows what, and something to think about, because it's true. So here, she would not even think there's something wrong. She's going to go alone in a room with her brother. And even though halachically she's not exactly her brother, their brother, sister, fine. So Tamar went to the house of her brother Amnon, who was in bed. But he's in bed, like in the cartoons, probably with a hot water or cold water bottle on his head and a thermometer out of his mouth. All right, they didn't have thermometers then, but you get the picture. Doesn't look like, well, he's in bed, isn't it? She took dough and kneaded it into cakes in front of him, cooked the cakes. She took the pan, set out the cakes. Amnon refused to eat and ordered everyone to withdraw. So now you have very unusual, but again, how suspicious is it? Your brother and sister. After everyone had withdrawn, Amnon says, Tamar, bring the food inside and feed me. All right, he's my brother. I'll feed him. He's a prince and he's embarrassed. As the prince, like Prince Harry or Prince, whatever princes they have these days, or Prince by another series of grammatical signs. So he's Prince, and he doesn't want people seeing that he's so sick that he has to be fed like an invalid by his sister. All right. So Tamar took the cakes, brought them inside to her brother. When she served them, he grabbed her. He grabbed her arm. Come lie with me. As she went over to him to just help him feed and eat, he yachazek, that's it, grabbed. Bo ishich imi. That's the wording of Potiphar's wife with Joseph in chapter 39 of Bereshit, book of Genesis, chapter 39, when Joseph gets sold into slavery in Egypt. He works for Potiphar, and Potiphar's wife takes a fancy to him. And that whole story that ends up landing him in a prison. He ends up with the steward, the wine steward, and the baker, and next thing you know, he's the number 2 in Egypt. Those were her words, Bo'is shichvi imi, come lie with me. It's interesting, the Torah, Hebrew is called Lashon HaKodesh. Hebrew is the holy language. That's its name, Lashon HaKodesh. Ivrit, Hebrew, and Lashon HaKodesh, the holy language. And how did it get to be called? Why is it holy? One of the reasons is that it doesn't have dirty words. Where he's trying to say something stronger, the strongest word in Hebrew basically is lie with me. Now they've gone modernized Hebrew in Israel, so they have street slang. And even the street slang, like the word for prostitute, they refer to, or rather, if you're insulting a man until recently, like the strongest Hebrew insult was ben zonah, was the strongest filthy word insult in Hebrew. You are the son of a prostitute. That was it. There's nothing, no dirtier term. You son of a prostitute. Ben zonah. That's how holy the language is. And then what they did was they borrowed from Arabic. So they have some other words now, thanks to our cousins who happen to live there. But Hebrew itself doesn't have those words. So he's saying, lie with me. He's not saying, you look tired, I look tired. Why don't we both take a nap? I have room in my bed for you to nap on the left side. He's saying, I want you to lie with me. And he understood. Lie with me. And he says, achoti, lie with me, my sister. Actually, I don't think it was going to be a successful request regardless, but obviously it complicates it by referring to her as his sister. Technically, halachically, she's not his sister. Different mothers, different fathers. He has David, she has zero father. She said to him, don't, brother. Al means no. Has a few meanings, but one of them is no. Do not. Al achi, al ta'anini. No, my brother, do not rape me. Or she forced me to do not rape me. Ki lo ye'aseh kein b'Yisrael. Because such is not done among Jews. Such things are not done in Israel. This is exactly the same language also. Because of time, I'm not bringing you to all the different verses, psukim in the Torah, but just as I pointed out to you that was the exact language used by the wife of Potiphar to Joseph, this is exactly the language that was used by Shimon and Levi, the two of the 12 sons of Yaakov, explaining why they killed out all the people of Shechem, Nablus, now called Nablus, Shechem. After the son of the mayor king of Nablus, Shechem, raped their sister, their full sister, or Dinah. Dinah had been a daughter of Yaakov and Leah. So 6 of the 12 boys were born to Leah and were full brothers of that sister. And the other 6 had Yaakov as a father, shared father. And when Shimon and Levi, 2 of the 6 who shared both the same mother and the same father as Dinah, responded by killing out all the people of Shechem, and that was the whole thing, and Yaakov was very angry at them. They said, Lo ye'aseh kein b'Yisrael. We had to do this because what was done to our sister Dinah, this is not done in Israel. There are things that are not part of our people's culture. There was an incident about, I think, 3 years ago, maybe 4. Not a 5-star hotel, but a hotel down south in Israel, in the Negev. 4 or 5 teenage boys dragged a girl and raped her in the hotel, in the room. And the girl got out the word, and I was watching. At that time, I was still, I think it must have been 3.5 years. I was rehabbing from my lung transplant. So I couldn't walk. I was just barely mobile. And I was sitting during almost all my waking hours watching TV because I just couldn't do anything else. I was doing an hour a day of exercise and how much sleep and the rest watching TV. And I said to myself, I'm going to watch TV like this. I don't want to just become a vegetable potato. I guess the only kind of potato there is. I don't want to just be a vegetable. So let me see if I can learn something. So I subscribed to something and I started watching Israeli news, the live news coming out of Israel. And I felt that will both educate me on what's going on, and more than that, will improve. I already have the Hebrew vocabulary, and I can write in Hebrew. And if I do this for the next year, I will become accustomed to hearing spoken Hebrew. So I was watching the news, the whole hour of news every night. So, the main stories we hear about are the wars and the Arabs this, and the Arabs stabbed here, and the Arab car ramming there, and an Arab bomb here. But when you watch the whole hour, they also have local stories. And there was this story about these 5 or whatever teenage boys, Jews, not Arabs, who had taken this girl, also teenager, and raped her. And it was like the #1 story in Israel. I wish it would be the #1 story. And they didn't kill her. It's not like Lake and Riley, God forbid, where the story in America is that the Lake and Riley is murdered, but that she would be raped. That's not a story. It comes up when they make a speech about we have to deport or we have to import. Then they talk about that there have been rapes. But that's not a whole national story. Among the Jews, it's a national. A Jew should rape. 5 Jewish boys should gangbang a teenage girl. Lo ye'asak kain b'Yisrael. This is not, forget that they're non-religious. Forget that they eat non-kosher and they break Shabbos. This is not done among the Jewish people. How could this, it was like, I'm telling you, every night in the news for like a month, they had these they would bring all these scholars and these sociologists, and they were being quite, all the interviewers and all the talk panels were just about what has happened to our country because of those 5 boys. Lo ye'osa kain b'Yisrael. So that's what she's telling him. She's not only saying, interesting how she says it, she's not saying, don't rape me, like you're a lowlife, or I'm going to tell dad. She's going deeper in her reasoning and saying, this is not done among the Jewish people. And you will be disgraced for all time. I will be too, because I'm a woman, and sociologically, people talk about the woman also. It's even when she's a victim, it is true. That's why so many women would never even testify in rape trials and would not report it, because they become tarnished. Now it's a little better in society, but for the man, take a look what we're studying tonight. He is tarnished for all time. Al ta'aseh et hanavala hazot. Don't do this despicable thing. Where will I carry my shame? And what about me? When the word gets out that I won't be able to marry anybody, it's that world. It's that world, not like today. If they know that I'm not a virgin and my brother, I'll be unable to marry, and I'll be looked upon wherever I walk. People will whisper, that's the one who, and you'll be like any of the scoundrels in Israel who go running around and please speak to the king. He will not refuse me to you. So she's saying, I mean, if you want to marry me, instead of rape, talk to the king. She doesn't say talk to our father because he is not halachically her father. To her, she's the king. He's the king who took her in. Talk to the king. He will not refuse me to you. He'll let you marry me. Interesting how the wording goes. Without someone to tell you what's going on in the story, it's not really clear what the real underlying story is. It's simply, he's going to let you ask permission from your father to rape me, and he'll say it. So, like, how would you read it without my explaining the background? Where will I carry my shame? And you'll be like any of the scandals in Israel. Speak to the king; he will not refuse me to you. You have to know the background. But Amnon would not listen to her. He overpowered her and lay with her. Vaya'anaha means it means a rape, but actually inui technically it means oppressed. He oppressed her and he lay with her. As opposed to, they don't have a word really for rape. It's to lie. And like to recline, to lie, and to oppress. After he raped her, he suddenly was disgusted by her. He got what he wanted. He was happy. It's not that she had no clothing on and he looked at her and he was disgusted. But after what he did and completed his act, he now felt he couldn't look at her anymore. And also she is no longer a virgin. So this is like sick. But that's the mindset. She's not a virgin anymore. She's not desirable anymore because she's forbidden to him. She's still forbidden to him, but she's not even forbidden to him. She is. The whole thing is screwed up now. He felt a very great loathing for her. Indeed, his loathing was greater than the passion he had. And Amnon said to her, get out. Vayisna eha, from the word lisno, sone, sina. Tisha B'Av, we talk about sinas chinam, wanton hatred. Sin'ah, hate, gedola, great hate. Ma'od, very great hate. Ki gedolah hasina asher sneah, greater was the hate with which he hated her, me ahava asher ahiva, than the love or desire with which he desired her. Vayomer la Amnon, so Amnon said to her, Kumi, get up, lechi, walk. In other words, get out. She pleaded, oh no, now you can't do this to me now. You can't, don't throw me out now to send me away. Now you have to marry me. And we're going to learn it. That's the halacha. In the halacha, someone who rapes a woman, not only a king's child, someone who rapes a woman has to marry the woman. The woman, wait, that's not fair to the woman. You'll say that the woman can say no. The woman can say no. But if she doesn't say no, let's say like right here with Tamar, you've destroyed me. Let me again give an example. I'm trying to be a rabbi, and I count on Denise after a class. Did I say anything that didn't sound holy? And she is a good sounding board. I'm going to say a name, Monica Lewinsky. I'm not laughing. I'm not smiling. I'm not smirking. Monica Lewinsky. Monica Lewinsky. 6 syllables. Everyone's thinking the same thing. And they will always think the same thing. That name will go down for Americans as long as it'll be not quite as much as John Wilkes Booth or Lee Harvey Oswald, but it'll be a name. People will always know that name. She is shamed forever. And if you say Bill Clinton, he's not shamed forever. Those who don't like Bill Clinton for any of a number of political reasons, otherwise, they'll roll their eyes. But Bill Clinton will not provoke Bill Clinton, those 3 syllables will not provoke the same entire mind thought as the 6 syllables Monica Lewinsky. Bill Clinton, you'll think Hillary Clinton, and you'll think his presidency. Some will think that was a good time in America. Some will think he's bad. I don't want to get into it. But the woman is destroyed. Now, it's not always that way, but it often is that way. Again, Stormy Daniels, Donald Trump. Donald Trump, complex figure. Stormy Daniels, just one thought. Not a very kind thought. They become shame. Now, in the case of a Stormy Daniels, that's the life she chose. Okay. In the case of Lewinsky, it's more complicated. In the case of Tamar, she certainly did not choose this. And now look where she's at. She too is shamed for life. She can't go anywhere for the rest of her life. And she's famous, thus infamous. She's in the popular mind, she's the daughter of the king. And I'll bet you, people, when they whispered, probably also said that, I don't know if you're allowed to say S-L-U-T, but that S-L-U-T, she was the daughter of a Yafat Toar. Everybody knows the king grabbed her mother in battle, at war. Nothing good was going to come at it. And suddenly all the blame and shame will be on her, even though she did nothing wrong. She's the most pure innocent of all. So she's begging him, marry me. The Torah says, if a man destroys me by raping me in a society where the raping of the woman casts her as tarnished for life, the Torah says he now has to marry her, unless she says, I don't want to. So it can't be against her will. But if, as we see here with Tamar, she feels, balancing the whole picture, my best call right now is to be married to him for life, live in the palace, like Queen Esther, don't venture out, just hang around the palace, and things will work out. And I've got my godfather, King David, and everybody's there, and they're all my sis brothers, they love me, and they're gonna take care of me and watch over me. All right. So she begs him, marry me. And I just wanted to explain, because it's so contraindicated, counterintuitive for us to think that her reaction is marry me. But so I wanted to explain the sociology here. Don't throw me out. That's the wrong. Al odot ra'ah hagdolah zot. Don't do this to me. The rape is wrong, but to send me away would be even worse, because then I'm just a pariah for life. Then the first wrong he committed, he would not listen to her. He's disgusted with her. He summoned his young attendant, right? He's the prince. Get her out of here. Shulchana et zot me'alayachut. What is zot? Zot is this. Send this out of here. Not even send this lady, send this sister, send this woman, send this. So often I translate for you better than the translator does. Does not say woman. Woman is Isha. Doesn't say Shulchana et Isha hazot. Send this. Una ol hadelat achareha, and then lock the door after she gets out. Get her out of my presence and bar the door. She was wearing an ornamental tunic, from maiden princesses were customarily dressed in such garments. His attendant took her outside and barred the door after her. Tamar put dust on her head. That was the act of mourning. Remember what Mordechai did last week? Sitting in sackcloth and in the middle of Shushan with dust on his head. We do that on Tisha B'Av. We put ashes on our heads, take a little piece of paper, take a match, paper plate underneath it. That's how I do it. Get the paper and don't have to burn the whole piece of paper, just the corner. Put it out in the paper plate, creates a little bit of ashes, put a few in your hair. On Tisha B'Av, in memory of the Beit HaMikdash that was burned. She put some dust on her hair. Afer is more like ashes than dust. And tore the ornamental tunic she was wearing. This is an extraordinarily, probably very expensive, very precious garment that the princess of the kingdom would wear. And she tore it as someone in mourning. She put her hands on her head and walked away screaming. Kriya, like God forbid at a cemetery, tore the garment. Vatasim yada al rosha, put her hand on her head. Vatelech haloch v'za'aka. Screaming, crying would be v'ubacha. Screaming is like this word we see in Breshit, Genesis, when it tells us that God heard za'akat Sodom, when he heard the screams of the oppressed people of Sodom and Gomorrah, Sodom v'Amorah. It says he heard their za'akat Sodom. That's the kind of screaming of someone who has been beyond oppressed, brought to as low as she can imagine. She can't imagine. If you're she, in that society, at that time and place, with that national morality, how could she be any lower? And just a few minutes earlier, she was humming a happy tune. She was going to help her brother. He's not feeling well. She's going to make a couple of cakes, and she's probably whistling a happy tune. And she's just gone like this. I don't want to. I was about to say it's like her October 7. I don't want to get into that. But for her whole life is over. 1 minute, like October 7. Again, I'm not comparing it, but like 1 minute, you're playing with the kids in the backyard, and the next minute your whole life ended. And they didn't kill you. They killed 1,200. But let's say Bibas. So they take Shiri Bibas and her 2 children, her whole life is ended. How long she continued living with her life ended? Now, again, I'm not comparing, I'm just trying to give some image of what happened thousands of years ago, more than 2,000 years ago. A happy, sweet girl, and her whole life just ended without being killed, simply by kicked out of the room from which she was raped. Brother, now Avshalom. Absalom is another of the brothers. Let's see if we can find 3:3 really fast. Just take a quick look. And we'll come back to that. Remember again, 2 Samuel chapter 3. Sons were born to David in Hebron. His firstborn was Amnon. That's the Bechor. And he's born to Achinoam of Jezreel, which we learned is up in the Carmel region. Second was Chilav. He doesn't play much in the narrative. And he's born to Abigail, the wife of Naval, the Carmelite. Naval was that gruff guy who was celebrating the annual sheep shearing, Shear, the annual sheep shearing festival, and he didn't want to give food or anything to David and his men. David would have killed him, but Abigail, his wife, saved his life by bringing food without telling him. Then she revealed that she brought food, and he died of a stroke. So that's Abigail. And then David married her. That was the second wife. He had Chilav, who does not become famous. Third was Avshalom. He just joined the story. Son of Ma'acha, daughter of King Talmai of Geshur. She was the Yafat Toar. She was a non-Jewish woman, a princess, born to the king, whom David conquered. And that lady Ma'acha, the Yafat Toar that he married, gave birth to 2 children. Avshalom is one of his children listed in the Navi because that impregnation was after she became Jewish. So Avshalom is the son, he's the father. Tamar is not listed because that impregnation was when Ma'acha was non-Jewish. That was the first time, and therefore David's not the father. So that was 3 kids, of whom from the first 3 we already have the players in this chapter. Firstborn Amnon, who raped the unlisted Tamar, and the third is Avshalom, who's Tamar's by mother complete brother. And then there is another one named Adonia and et cetera, et cetera. We're not going to go into that. We learned that, but this is why I did that at great length at the time we learned it. And I think we did 2 classes, maybe part of a third one, on his children, because I knew what was coming up. So Avshalom, her same brother, said, was it your brother Amnon who did this to you? Look, for the present sister, keep quiet about it. It's just not gonna be good. You don't want anybody, just be quiet. He is your brother. Don't brood over the matter. How do we say it here? Amnon achicha haya imach? Was it Amnon, your brother, who was with you? Ata with an ayin. Now, sister, hacharishi. That was in Megillah, where Mordechai says to Esther, the word be silent. He says, if you be silent, in chapter 4 of Megillah, if you be silent at this time and not approach the king and ask him to save the Jews, salvation will come from somewhere else and you and your family will end up being destroyed. Here, Hacharishi, stay silent. Achicha, who is your brother? Al tashiti libecha devarza. Don't allow your heart. I know it's very, very hard to ask of you. Please trust me. Don't think about it. Don't talk about it. I will take care of this. Vateshav Tamar v'shomema. So Tamar went back. Shomema beit Avshalom achia. She went back to Avshalom's house. She's not married, of course. She's a single girl. And she goes back to Avshalom's house. And he says, just wait. When King David heard about all this, these things don't stay secret for long, do they? So how should he have answered? And it's very important. And this you're allowed, you don't need the rabbis to tell you. What do you feel? And we won't get into a long discussion on it, but how should he relate to that? He's got 8 or 10, or we're going to find out maybe he had 400 sons. We're going to see a Gemara about that. How do you, and you hear that one of your sons just raped the daughter you had, and even though technically she's not your daughter, of course she's your daughter, for practical purposes. How do you relate to that? It says he got very, very angry. He was enraged. Is that enough? I don't know. I don't know. What do you do? Do you kill him? You can't. How are you going to kill your son? What do you do? You're going to yell at him? After that, what kind of yelling? You're going to disown him? I don't know. What do you do? And this is important because whatever he did or didn't do will turn out not to have been enough in the mind of Avshalom, the full brother. When the full brother learns that his father did only this, only got enraged and nothing more, this will lead to an eruption that is indescribable, and almost David's death and the disruption of the house of David and the fulfillment in its fullest of the prophet Natan's prophecy that because of what you did to Uriah the Hittite by taking his wife, albeit divorced temporarily, Bathsheba, and then arranging for Uriah to be executed, which maybe he deserved for having kind of been in rebellion, but the way you did, that God will punish you, and there will be bloodshed and bloodshed. Natan said, there will be bloodshed and bloodshed in your home. Thus it begins. And it's all happening in a natural course of events. One of the sons is out of control, decides to rape somebody. This happens there, all natural course events. But it all starts right after the prophet says, your house will be destroyed. Well, partly, not completely, because Mashiach is going to come from him. Solomon and Shlomo came from him. But there will be nonstop bloodshed. It's not going to be what it was. Till now, it's been a party. You've been winning all your battles. You're the king of Israel. You dance in the streets. You're having a good time. All over. When King David heard about all this, he was greatly upset. Vayichar lo ma'od. He was enraged. All right. Avshalom didn't utter a word to Amnon. Again, Avshalom is the full brother of the rape person, and he doesn't say anything to the half-brother. They're all half-brothers because they all have the same father. He doesn't say anything to his half-brother Amnon, who raped his sister. Everybody knows about it. King David knows about it, and he's the one that's not supposed to find out more than anyone else. Everybody knows about it. I don't know whether they know about it outside the palace. But in the palace, everybody knows about it. Avshalom doesn't say anything, good or bad. Lo diber Avshalom im Amnon le'merah v'yatov. Not ra, not tov. Ki sonei Avshalom and Amnon al devar asher not at Tamar achatov, because Avshalom hated, so much hated Amnon for what he did, al devar asher not, for what he did to oppress, that is to rape, his sister Tamar. So there's something cooking. For 2 years, Vayhilu shnatayim yamim, 2 years pass. How long is 2 years? Today is March 18, 2025. If you're able to, think a moment to where you were at March 2023. That's a long time. October 7 had not happened. Biden was president. Russia had not invaded Ukraine. There's a whole different world. Elon Musk, you heard of him. He puts spaceships in the sky, and he's got a thing called a Tesla. I mean, I could go on and on. 2 years ago is a long time. Just to wait, that thing about the revenge is a dish best served cold. He waits 2 years. Vayugo zimli Avshalom b'vachatzur asher Ephraim. Avshalom, like so many people in those years, was a shepherd. Nowadays, the Jewish professions, you're a doctor, you're a lawyer, you're an accountant, you're IT, you could do anything. Jews could be anything. And every form of work is dignified, even to be a rabbi. But in those days, like if you heard somebody today, what do you want to be when you grow up? I want to be a shepherd. So the parents would sit shiva. But in those days, that was a big thing. Moshe Rabbeinu was a shepherd when he was at Yitro's home before he came to free the Jews in Egypt by God's command. David HaMelech was a shepherd. Avraham was a shepherd. Yitzchak was a shepherd. Yaakov was a shepherd. They all were shepherds. The greatest of our highest people were shepherds. The tribes of Reuven and Gad and half of Manasseh asked Moshe Rabbeinu before they entered the land of Israel under Yehoshua, is it okay if we don't cross the river, the Jordan, because we'd like this lush territory east of the Jordan because we're shepherds and this is great grazing land. So everybody was a shepherd. And Naval, whom I mentioned just a few minutes ago, Naval was the shepherd who was doing the sheep shearing festival and did not want to give David and his men food and anything. Well, it's the sheep shearing. Every year, the sheep at a certain time of year are sort of at their maximum wool, and it's like a big simcha. If you're in that business, thank God, whatever illnesses sheep come down with, and then, they're all together, and they're all together as a flock, and then, God forbid, a sheep catches a contagious sheep illness or something, and then half of your flock die. Thank God your flock were spared any terrible illness. If a few of them died, you were able to isolate them, and you had good wool and everything. Baruch Hashem, you're celebrating. That's the big celebration. So, Vayu goes to Simli Avshalom. It was 2 years later, and Avshalom's annual period to celebrate the successful shearing ceremony, and again, Shear, Beval Chatzur, in the Ephraimite land. The land of Ephraim is a little bit north. Okay. Vayikra Avshalom l'chol bnei Melech. And Avshalom, again, that's the full brother by the mother of the Tamar who's been raped, invites all his brothers. And remember, again, he's got a lot of brothers. He's got Chilav, and he's got Avshalom, and he's got Adoniah, and he's got Shaphatya, and he's got, how do you pronounce that one? Yitram, of course. He was born by Eglah, and that's just in Hebron. And then there are others, and I said we'll be learning, God willing, next week or the week after, about, he had maybe 400 kids. And if you'll say, how's that possible? In your spare time, you could look up Haile Selassie, who was the Lion of Judah. He called himself the Lion of Judah. He's one of the grand emperors of Africa from those days. He was, I believe, Ethiopia, and he had like 500 children. Something like he impregnated. For all I know, every day or two, if the guy's grabbing another woman in Ethiopia every second day, it's 180 a year. In 3 years, he's got 500 children, Mazel Tov. So he invites all the sons of the king. That kind of would mean not Tamar, right? And let's read in English, keep moving. And Avshalom came to the king. Look, it's a big, big celebration. It's a big family celebration. They've made a lot of money by celebrating, making it a year of all that wool. And you can invite all your brothers and inviting all the family, and it's going to be like a bar mitzvah on steroids. So, of course, you invite your father. Came to the king and said, Dad, your servant, namely I, that's how a child of a king refers to himself. I am your servant, even though your dad, I am your servant, your humble servant. Your servant is having his flocks sheared. Would your majesty and your retinue accompany your servant. Hinei nago zimli avdecha, I'm your eved. Yelechna hamelech v'avadav im avdecha. And it's instructive, the nature of the relationship. Each of you can pause a moment and think about growing up with and being teenagers with your father or your mother. Even if you were a rebellious kid, but even rebellious, there was not that boundary between child and parent as to refer to your parent as yourself as his or her servant, and refer to parent as your majesty. But I guess that's what it is when you're the child of a king. I guess maybe the child, I don't know, the son of Henry VIII. Well, he's chopping everybody's head off. You call him whatever he wants. Do you refer to daddy as your majesty? Maybe. I know, for example, Denise calls me by my first name. Of course, we're married. And she calls Ellen Zichron Levracha, calls me by first name, but Denise always refers to me as rabbi when other people are in the room. So, like, she'll ask me, like, if there's other people in the room, she'll ask, or at the sukkah. So we have other people's sukkah, she'll say, Rabbi, should I bring out the main dish now? Or Rabbi, do you? Whereas privately, I'm dove. Because there's a certain propriety, and in the same way, maybe in a more private way, they would refer to him as dad. I don't know. Or do they really just always call him your majesty? But you see, they're not so close. And this also is part of it. If you've got the kid is raping there's something going on in that family. There's something going on. It's like Andy Cohen. Definitely, if he were alive then, that is a show for him to put on TV. All right. But the king answered Avshalom, no, thanks for inviting me. And we're going to learn in the next week or two, Avshalom knew his father would turn him down. He knew, as big a thing as it is, it's not a wedding. It's not a bar mitzvah. It's simply shearing sheep. And given that his home, Avshalom's home, is going to be overcrowded with all these brothers and extended family and uncles and aunts and nephews and nieces, the place is going to be full. Now, David understands if he goes, he's always accompanied by a huge retinue of bodyguards. And whenever the king, if you've ever watched one of these Middle Ages British movies about Henry VIII or Lion in Winter or A Man for All Seasons, and whenever the king shows up to eat at someone's home, like 200 people come with him. I'm thinking of that scene in A Man for All Seasons when the king, actually same Henry VIII, I think it was, when he or Henry II maybe, and he shows up at the guy's house that he's going to later execute, Thomas More, and he brings like 200 people. So you invite the king for dinner, you've got to be ready for a bar mitzvah. So the king says, no, I'm not going to come. Nothing personal. I know the burden I'm going to put on. No, my son, we must not all come. It's going to be all of us. It will be a burden to you. Al no nelech kulanu, all of us. Lo nichbar alech, let us not burden you. And, this is one of those things where you really don't want the guy to come, and you're relieved that the guy says no. And then when he says no, you keep begging him, no, please come, where you're afraid, sort of like when you don't have money to pay the check and you take someone else to dinner and you're counting on them, the old Honeymooners episode, where you're counting on the other guy to offer to pay the check, and he doesn't. And it starts off with each one saying, I'll pay the check. No, I'll pay the check. No, I'll pay the check. Oh, okay, go ahead and pay it. So that's what's going on here. That Avshalom kind of dishonestly keeps pressing David, no, please come. And David says, no, I'm not coming. And so they accepted David's not going to come. And that was the plan. So all the brothers are there, but not David. Vayomer Avshalom, and thereupon Avshalom said, in that case, let my brother Amnon come with us. To which the king replied, he shall not go with you. But Avshalom urged him, and he sent with him Amnon and all the other princes. Dad, if you're not coming, I got to have mishpacha here. It's like a big thing for me. I just had one heck of a sheep season. Please. And so the father said, I don't think I want Amnon with you. I think there's some bad blood between the two of you. Oh, come on, Dad. That's 2 years ago. Forget about it. What am I going to carry this forever? All right. So Vayishlach ito et Amnon v'et kol b'nei hamelach. David said, Amnon, I'm wrapping up now. David said, just with the text before we get into commentaries next week. Vayetzav Avshalom et narav limor. Avshalom, again, that's the brother of the one who was raped, gave his attendants these orders. Watch. And let the party go on a while, and everybody's going to be drinking wine. And when Amnon is quite under the influence of wine, Ketov Lev Amnon Bayayin. You see the language so similar to Megillah when it refers to Ketov Lev HaMelech Bayayin. In chapter 1 of the Megillah, literally it says Ketov Lev HaMelech Bayayin. When the king's heart was happy with, that's when he called for Vashti to be brought into the other room to prance naked. And you know what unfolded from that. So when Amnon was merry with wine, he says, watch, at that moment I will tell you to strike him down, and you kill him. Don't be afraid, for it is I who give you the order. Act with forthrightness. Brave men. Don't go soft. Otherwise his brothers may come to his defense. Act like Huns. Avshalom's attendants did to Amnon, as Avshalom had ordered. They slaughtered him. Whereupon all the other princes ran. They didn't know what's going on. It looked like, for all they knew, this is some kind of, Middle Ages massacre within a family. For all they know, Avshalom is right now acting to take over the kingdom. And his first step is to slaughter all of the brothers, and then he'll kill his father, and he'll take over. And he'll kill all his father's wives. Who knows let's all get out of here. But actually, Avshalom's only intention was to kill Amnon. And he waited 2 years to get him in a place where nobody would prevent him from coming, and he'd get good with the wine. And they were still on the road when the rumor reached David, Hashmu'ah, Lishmoah, to hear. The rumor reached David that Avshalom had killed all the princes. He ka Avshalom et kol b'nei hamelach, and that none of them had survived. That's what happens with rumors, you know that. So it was almost accurate, just not. At this, as I said, we're just wrapping it up here. At this, David rent his garment. This is a real avelus. This is a real mourning. His entire family has been exterminated, except for Avshalom, who's murdered them all, based on the rumor he's heard. He lay down on the ground, and all his courtiers stood by with their clothes torn. But Yonadav, the son of David's brother Shema, said, that was that nephew who gave Amnon the suggestion that was intended to open the door to marrying her, but was misinterpreted as a suggestion to open the door to raping her. And he said to David, right now, my Lord must not think that all the young princes have been killed. I think I know what happened here. Al Yomar Adoni et kol hana'arim b'nei hamelech mitu ki Amnon levad domet ki al pi Avshalom haytashuma miyom anoto et Tamar achuto. I know what I think you don't. It's not all the boys. Only Amnon is dead. For this has been decided by Avshalom 2 years ago, ever since the moment that his sister Tamar was raped. And we finish it here. So my lord the king must not think for a moment that all the princes are dead. You still have your family. Amnon alone. Ki im Amnon levado met. Amnon alone is dead. And with this, we'll break tonight, and continue next week. I want to thank everybody for being here. And what we're starting to learn now is that the life of David was very, very complex. For many weeks and months, we learned about his happiness and his royal successes, and nothing could go wrong. It was the Midas touch. Um, and it all turns around because God is punishing him because of what he did with Bathsheba. So God willing, we'll see you on Thursday, many of you, for the return of the Thursday classes. We'll be doing that last segment on autopsies during wartime, and we'll be continuing with more issues on the ethics and values of war. Thanks for being here, and have a
Rabbi,
wonderful evening.
Rabbi,
Janet, I'll take your question in a moment, and I invite anybody who's watching on YouTube to subscribe to our channel and to pass along a nice like and send a link to other people.